What about these animals here? These are freshwater stream animals, what we have come here to talk mostly about today. So how did they get here to our islands in the middle of the Pacific Ocean? These are not kind of animals when you think about, freshwater animals. Do they like salt water? What about if you had a pet goldfish? Is it okay for it to be in salt water, or is that freshwater? Do some animals tolerate, or do some animals live in both? Do they only live in freshwater? Do they only live in saltwater? Think about fish that you know of. Well, we're going to talk about the life cycle of these animals right here, our native Hawaiian stream animals. And it's different from most other animals that you are familiar with. Older Hawaiian stream animals live in freshwater, in the stream. But when they're old enough to have babies, they will lay eggs. And those eggs will hatch into what we just talked about on the previous slide. Their babies will become plankton, those tiny animals that grow up into larger animals that we just talked about. So these plankton will float downstream, as all streams that we are just talking about in our first slide. Those streams go to the ocean and they will stay there for many, many months before returning back to fresh water. And how do they know where to go back to? They don't always have to go back to the same stream. They might go to a different stream on a different island, or maybe go across the Pacific. But how do they know when to settle down? How do they know when to go back to fresh water? It's usually after a heavy rainstorm when there's a lot of water going down the stream. And you might have seen local streams in your neighborhood or in your community when it's really high, but maybe when it's really brown and dirty, and after a heavy rainstorm and all that water goes to the ocean. And all that water that goes out there, it leaves a trail for these animals to follow. They will smell that water all the way out there or all the way to the island and swim upstream. So they will come back about after 6 months in their keiki stage, or when they're probably your age right now. And they will swim upstream to the best place that they are adapted to.